listen, if this helps, I want you to share it. I had a conversation earlier today. For some of you all have heard this before. Just indulge me again, because I really believe somebody needs to hear this. In fact about it, I want to give you 2 practical things that you can do. Hey, but prayers, 2 practical things that you can do to kind of unload, if I could say it that way. It's probably a better way to say it, instead of drop the unnecessary pressure, how to unload that. And here's what I mean when I say the unnecessary pressure. I'm talking about the stuff that you don't have to do, but that you do. I'm not talking about your responsibility as a believer, and that's loving people, bearing spiritual fruit. I'm not talking about your responsibility that's tied to who you are as a human being, your tasks, your job, your spiritual gifts. But I'm talking about those tasks that have not been assigned to you, but you, for whatever reason, felt the need to pick that up. You can't say it was the Lord who told you. You can't say it was any other reason other than you being who you are, seeing a need, and quickly wanting to meet that need or help with that need. Sometimes we can find ourselves with pressure, problems, burdens that we were never meant to carry. And if you are like me and other people I know, your heart is so big, and you'll find yourself doing stuff that needs to be done and putting extra work on yourself that God never intended you to have. Drop, unload the unnecessary pressure. Let me give you an example about an unnecessary pressure that, if we're not careful, we can put on ourselves. The unnecessary pressure of feeling as though you're responsible for people, looking out for them when they themselves had not done what they were supposed to do. You know, some of you all have experienced family members who are not good with money. They just don't manage money well at all. They just don't do it. And perhaps some of you've been in that place before in your own life. And what happens is you get caught up in this Messiah complex, where you find yourself now, somebody, this family member who you know don't manage money well, is asking you for money. And when you hear that, you hear their story, you're compelled to give it, knowing that they're only in that situation because of their own mismanagement. And you hear that and you take that on as a burden, and you start stressing. Now, some of you all ain't got this problem. You know, but some of us do. And you feel this need to come and save to the rescue. And it's not because you want to be prideful. It's not because you want your name called or recognized. It's because you genuinely want to help the person you love. And you'll find yourself not being able to do it and feeling bad because you can't. That's the unnecessary pressure I'm talking about. The unnecessary pressure that you have to unload is understanding that this is not something that I have to do. This is not my obligation. And sometimes things that are optional, we take them on as obligations. We don't have the gifting for it. We don't have the means for it. I use the money as a situation or analogy, as an example. But there's so many. Sometimes it's with time. Sometimes it could be with resources. Sometimes you can take on an added pressure. Watch this. Consuming yourself with somebody else's situation that they're not even worried about. I know I didn't talk to somebody just now. You are consuming yourself with a situation that somebody else is, and they're not even worried about it. But yet you are trying to find out strategies, and no, come on now. That's unnecessary pressure. Here are the two things you can do to unload it. Two things you can do to unload unnecessary pressure. Again, unnecessary pressure are those things that you don't have to do, but you find yourself doing them. And sometimes when you can't do them, you feel bad. You go into this whole guilt mode. Here are the two things you can do to unload, drop unnecessary pressure. Number one, remember, if it's not your business, then chances are it's not your responsibility. If it's not your business, chances are it's not your responsibility. If it does not concern you, it's not your business, it's their business, chances are it's not your responsibility. Now, if you choose to help understanding that this is not my responsibility. Because see, when you take ownership of it as being your responsibility and you can't do it, you're going to feel some way about yourself if you love people and you've got a big heart. So understand that if it's not your business, it's not your responsibility. Number two, if it is your business, means it's your responsibility. If you are responsible for it, know what portion you are responsible for and do that. If it is your business, it's your responsibility, or you have some responsibility in it, then discover what that responsibility is and do that. Don't try to overdo it. Listen, you ain't helping people by hurting yourself. Remember that. You're not helping people when you're hurting yourself. I'm going to let you go. I just wanted to come on. I had a conversation earlier today with somebody, and we were talking about this, and I could sense in the conversation this overwhelming sense of, I gotta do, and I know what that spirit feels like. Listen, my brother, my sister, enjoy your life. If you're a believer, follow the teachings of Jesus Christ and know that self-denial is not self-neglect. What that got to do with what you're talking about, Bishop? Because sometimes people will tell you, especially if they know you love the Lord, that you ought to do stuff. No. My relationship with God does not make you entitled to use me. My relationship with God does not give you an entitlement that you can use or misuse me. Drop that unnecessary pressure. What's the unnecessary pressure? The unnecessary pressure is when you take up on things that you don't have to take up on, and you treat them like they're yours. Another way of saying that is that here's an option that you take on as an obligation. Don't do that. How do you stop? If it's not your business, chances are it's not your responsibility. And if it is your business and you do have responsibility for it, know what that responsibility is and do that part. God is counting on you to be a loving, wise, mature believer. That means you cannot do everything for everybody. That means you ain't got the question, or rather, you ain't got the answer to every question. You don't have the solution to every problem. There's some other people God has made and God has wired to handle that particular problem. No. Drop, unload that unnecessary pressure. You got enough to deal with of your own than to feel a sense of guilt and being overwhelmed when you cannot do something that really ain't yours to do in the first place. Y'all think about that. Be good to yourself. Be good to yourself. And remember, if you can be yourself with God, you ought to be yourself with everybody else. Y'all take care of yourself. I'll see y'all next time I'm in traffic. If this helps, share it. Peace.